Something that I really like about art in general is that I get to immerse myself within a world. You can look at a painting, get lost in it. You can watch a movie and just kind of imagine yourself in that world. Video games, I think, are a really, really good way of viscerally doing that kind of thing, taking somebody and letting their actions be presented in the world and say that this is the person that you are. Today we're going to look at a game that I think has a really interesting world that I inhabit, but because of the actions that I do in it, it doesn't feel like I am a part of that world. It feels like I'm separated from it. Hi there, welcome to Games Over Qualia. My name is Devon. So this game is called Esion. I think it's called Esion, E-S-I-O-N. As soon as you boot up the game, you have this environment that seems very stark. It's very black and white, and I really like it. There's barely any color in the game. There is some color. You're walking down this mega structure of some sort, and within it you have this big ravine that's in the bottom. There's a narrative in this game, and the narrative is told by this person, Citri. When you talk to her, it seems like you two are here for a specific purpose. The game is rather simple. It's just a fishing game. You are fishing down into this big ravine on the other side of this wall, and when you go fishing, you pull up every now and then these fragments, and you give them to Citri, and then she tells you what to get next. And then after a certain amount of ingredients into this type of thing that she's building, this ritual, she then performs the ritual, and that's the end of the game. But I was a little confused about what the purpose of my role in this world was. When I played this, I didn't really feel like I was playing anything specific. Like the game has such an interesting mechanic in it. You are catching fish, but they're not just normal fish. They're like really strange looking kind of mutated fish that have like many different eyes or jaws that are shaped strangely. When you catch these fish, you don't just put them in your pocket. You have some sort of grid based display, and that's your inventory. And then the fish takes up a little bit of that grid. And the reasoning for this was a little strange for me. Like I never really understood why this was included. I've seen this grid before. I haven't played the game, but there's a game called Dredge that has this kind of grid-based layout for catching fish. You catch fish and then you put them into your inventory, and the whole point of that game is to bring your fish over to an area in order to fulfill orders. It's an interesting system if you're working as someone who's like a fisherman, right? Who has to do this kind of inventory in and out kind of daily process thing. And that's what you're doing in Dredge. You are a fisherman and you're working a job. If we look at one of the most used grid-based inventory system in Resident Evil, and what's really interesting in that kind of game is that when I'm playing Resident Evil, I feel like I'm limited on my space, and so I can't just, collect weapons, collect whatever I want, and build up my power because I'm severely limited. I have to be super efficient. And what that does is, to me, it builds up that tension. It feels like I never have the upper hand. It feels like I need to be very careful and very selective. But in this game, in Esion, I don't really understand why it's this way. I do realize that there are different types of shapes of the fish, but in this game, there's no pressure for me to get specific types of fish all the time. Every fish that you get, you can sell to this person who's buying them, and then you use that money to upgrade your gear to get more fish. I can talk to the person to sell my fish at any time. There's no limitations on that. So when I put my fish within this blocking system, it doesn't really feel meaningful in any way. So I don't really see the need to have any kind of efficiency in here. The other thing is that the narrative in here is that you're trying to help your friend Citri. And this thing that you two are working for, this type of ritual that you're trying to do together, it seems like it's some sort of escape perhaps, or some sort of reconnection with Citri's mother for something. I'm feeling like I'm trying to be efficient for no reason. I feel like I'm trying to do something else, but I'm not sure what that something else is. It's just efficiency for efficiency's sake, and that's it. And like I said, the system itself is fun. It's interesting. It's just not meaningful to me. So I want to go ahead now and read the developer's intentions and see what they intended. The only way I'm able to make this stuff is because of you guys. So if you want to support the channel, I really appreciate it. There's a link in the description. Okay, so let's get to the developer's intentions here. So when people submit games to me, they fill out a questionnaire. And my first question was, what were you hoping that the player would feel while playing your game? This dev answered, I really want to convey the feeling of unsettling atmospheric horror, a sense of scaleness of the big environment compared to the player, as well as a feeling of void or emptiness with only a sense of small hope when seeing your only two companions. After a couple of fishing strikes, I want it to still feel tense, but at the same time more relaxed, as the player understands the main game loop of fishing and selling fish. This almost morphs into an expectation of what the next fish is going to look like, or a sense of curiosity into what it is and they're trying to find. My second question was, why did you choose this experience? This dev answered, I would describe myself as a more anxious type than the average person. However, I do not necessarily necessarily, I guess, see it as a hindrance, but instead I feel comfort in these unsettling moods. Simply put, it feels to me that the rainy days are as important as the sunny days. This is why I intended to make this style of an atmospheric horror game. I specifically wanted to go for a quiet horror vibe. I also take solace in really unsettling environments. I really like that. My third question was, were there any specific moments, mechanics, or ideas that you built around that emotional goal? This dev answered, I would say that I focused more on the game feel. For example, a striking sound combined with a red indicator on the fishing rod string to make it feel like the player is catching something, and it was more anxiety-inducing sound rather than a fun splash. The lighting as well, only one point of light, and it being a rather harsh contrast between light and dark. Cryptic dialogue was also intended to be felt as a sense of lostness, that the player doesn't quite understand the world and that they have to rely on their own interpretations. Size comparison, I wanted to convey a sense of scale, making the player feel smaller than the environment, mainly the reason why the corridor is bigger than the player and their companions. From my point of view, I feel I have achieved the feeling that I intended by using the above-mentioned instruments. I think you absolutely nailed the atmosphere in here, at least for me. I definitely felt that oppressive kind of structure thing. It didn't get so much into megalophobia, but it does teeter on that for sure. You know, when you jump up on the edge and you look down below, it's weird. I probably would have felt more lonely if the place felt like it was a liminal kind of space, you know, a space between other places that was meant for people. I did feel lonely in the sense that it was big and I was small, but apart from that, it didn't really feel like this was meant for anyone specific. The part where you said this almost morphs into an expectation of what the next fish is going to look like. That's interesting because for me, I never really had that curiosity. But after talking to Citri and she would say, you know, go get this next fish for this ritual, then yes, I would have an idea of what it is that I wanted to pick out. I'll tell you what I didn't feel. I did not feel the horror. When you said the word quiet horror, that makes a little bit more sense to me. I think maybe a sense of eeriness or a sense of unease. I really like that about this whole thing. It's interesting that you didn't really talk about the fishing mechanic because that's the thing that I was stuck on in this whole game. I felt like if this game was more of a walking sim or more of just a casual fishing game that has nothing to do with the narrative, then that kind of thing I feel like would allow me to kind of live within this world and recognize that I'm just a part of this world and that's it. But instead we have this narrative that I feel like really pulled my attention away from the other things. And what was interesting was that when I was in this place, I never felt like I was an outsider in terms of being there with other people. The two companions here, because they're my only friends and because there's no one else here, it feels like a very friendly environment. Even though the environment itself is very tall, very big, it has broken stuff everywhere, it has this deep abyss that you can't see the water. That's how I would describe the environment, right? A disquieting kind of thing. But when I'm in the environment, when I'm actually doing my gameplay of fishing, when I'm trading them for money, when I'm using that to upgrade my stuff, the person that I'm selling to, is helping me. The person who I'm talking to get this ritual done, she's helping me. Everything seems very friendly in terms of interaction. It feels like I'm just playing a game. It feels like I'm just kind of chilling, and I don't really feel anxious at any period of time. There's a game this kind of reminded me of called Fishing Vacation, which is a fishing horror game also. When you fish in that game, there's a lot of tension about what's going to happen. You keep coming back to the same lake, and there's things that are happening on the edges of the screen and sometimes in the water that feel off, and you're just not sure what to expect next. It's the tension of the actual mechanic. When you cast your line, we have a little window that pops up to show where you are, and then we hear a little splash, and then we have the reeling in that takes a long time, and you have to fight the fish every now and then. It feels like a thing, and then when it finally gets to you, it has a little window that pops up and it says Yukata, and it doesn't show anything for a little bit, and then the picture pops up and it shows the fish and the fish name underneath. What's interesting about that is, again, when you're playing that game, there's a lot of things that are going wrong in the game, and you expect something bad to happen. And spoiler alert, something bad does happen because it's a horror game. But when you catch fish in that game, there's that tension that you feel from casting your line and pulling it in. And you notice in that game, the game looks pretty inviting. It creates this kind of tension just through the mechanics alone, not necessarily through the art, right? The art itself, even though it is on like a Game Boy screen, low resolution, and you can't really make out a lot of stuff, that's part of it, sure. But a lot of it is also that tension that you're feeling from building up the expectations of something bad. And I'd say that the game Dredge. And again, I haven't played this game, but the game that uses the same type of inventory system for your fish, I feel like that game probably has the same kind of thing where you're building up some anxiety about what you're going to find. And with this game, I never felt that anxiety about pulling up some sort of fish. You know, if I pulled up a fish and it was weird, I more got delight because I'm thinking, oh, a weird fish. I wonder if this is the next part of the narrative, or I wonder if this is something that I can sell now and get like a lot of money for. So I would say that the aesthetics of this game, yeah, they're very strange and very odd, but the feeling I got while playing the game was mostly just relaxation. Thank you so much for submitting your game. If you are not this developer and you want to submit your own game, I have a large waitlist that takes us currently into almost the end of next year, but you can see there's a link in the description if you'd like to submit your game. We also have a Discord if you want to come in and say what's up and chat about games. So that's it. I'll talk to you guys another time. Peace.